G'day, I'm Barney and I'm making Star Mining Co, a roguelike mining game where you use your customizable super drill to carve your way through the asteroid belt to earn riches and buy new parts for your drill. A really important aspect to roguelike games is their replayability. The player will be dying and restarting a lot, so the game needs to be fresh and interesting each time they do. At the time of my last devlog, Star Mining Co had randomized maps and levels, both of which are pretty standard in roguelikes and definitely help with the replayability, but there's more that I can do to improve it. In this devlog, I'll go over all the changes I've made to the game since the last one with a focus on the game's replayability. And if you think the game sounds cool at any point, there's a link in the description to the Steam page where you can wishlist the game so you can get notified when it comes out. First off, and very visibly, there's now an air tank being displayed when you're mining an asteroid, which is slowly being used up by your spacesuit and a bit more quickly by your jetpack. Air is now the power source of the drill as well, so using your drill will drain the air even faster. This adds a bit of time pressure to your mining adventure, and you'll have to plan a route through the asteroid to make the most effective use of the air you've got. To go along with this, asteroids now have a chance of spawning air pockets, like this one, which let you refill the tank, giving you another chance to cash in on the precious materials in the asteroid. Once the tank runs out, your time on the asteroid is over and you'll be transported back to your ship. Each part you add to your drill also has an air cost associated with it, so piling in heaps of random parts will make your drill eat up all the air really quickly. And talking of drill parts, they've had a massive rework, and this is where, I hope at least, the replayability will start being drastically improved. Originally, each drill part was an individual thing. If you added a strength boost, it always worked the same regardless of what else was going on with your drill. I've been playing a lot of Balatro recently, and it's something they do really well. In Balatro, you play poker hands that get modified, upgraded, and enhanced, and all of the systems in the game tie into each other. So every action you make has a consequence and potentially massive benefit to your run. Because everything's so interwoven, no two runs are alike, so the replayability is off the charts, and you're always saying just one more run. Back in Star Mining Co, drill parts are now split into two categories, inputs and outputs, and are arranged on a grid where they can have influence over each other. The artwork, as always, is pretty temporary, but for the moment I've made the grid and the parts look like chips on a circuit board. Input parts calculate a value that's fed to neighbouring squares in the grid, and outputs read the input values from the square they're on and produce some effect on your drill. For example, this input component puts out 150% when you're at the surface of the asteroid, but drops to 75% when you're near the core. The icon in the hover information tells you which neighbouring cells it affects, and the grid cells are also highlighted in blue. If I put a size output in that cell, we can see that the size of our drill bit is now being affected by the position in the asteroid. If multiple inputs are influencing the same cell, then their values are multiplied together, allowing you to build up the input values being fed to the outputs. Where this becomes interesting is that you don't always want to maximize the input values. For example, there's an output that influences the air cost of the drill, which is something that you want to keep as low as possible. In the previous scenario, our drill was most powerful when we stayed near the surface because the size was being increased. However, if we switch the size output with the oxygen one, our drill is now best near the core because the air cost is now being reduced, letting us run the drill for longer. This adds a bit of a challenge to the drill setup where you have to try and fit the drill parts together in such a way that your drill becomes as powerful as possible. As well as the basic stat outputs, there's also some novelty ones that I've been working on. For example, I've got an output that has a chance of converting some of the just mined basic materials into precious materials, and the chance of that happening goes up the higher the input is. I'm really happy with this new system. Since all the new parts now interact with each other, there's so many more options of how to put your drill together, and each decision has flow-on effects to the other parts you're using. I've had it multiple times while testing that I'll figure out a better way to utilize the parts I've got, and it makes me feel like a genius, and hopefully you'll get this feeling as a player as well. My goal for this new drill setup is to have a similar effect on replayability as Balatro achieves with its systems, but it's unrealistic for me to expect that it's going to be anywhere near that good. I won't really know how well it's worked until I do some wider playtesting, but more on that later. When you first start a run, the circuit board will be a pretty cramped 2x2 grid, but you can purchase size increases up to a 5x5 grid at the mechanic, which is a new asteroid type. I've added a bunch of new ones to the game. As well as the mechanic, there's also harder asteroids, merchants, and promotion opportunities, which will all appear randomly in the asteroid belt, and yes, the asteroid belt is inspired by Slay the Spire. To go through the different types briefly, the mechanic lets you purchase upgrades for individual parts as well as for your drill overall, like the circuit board size upgrades and other things such as base oxygen consumption of your drill and so on. Harder asteroids are made of tougher materials but have more clusters of ore and also give a better choice of parts upon completion. Merchant asteroids are where you can buy supplementary parts for your build, and the promotions let you purchase upgrades for things related to how Star Mining Co treats you as an employee. For example, you can reduce how much money they take as a corporate cut at the end of each asteroid or increase how much you're able to sell materials for. These added asteroid types make planning a route through the asteroid belt a lot more important and a lot more fun. Even though I had randomized maps in the previous versions, now there's actual meaningful choices to be made while navigating it, which makes the game way more replayable as well. On the topic of upgrades, drill parts are now randomized, meaning that each playthrough of the game will have unique items. They're also now tiered from common through uncommon and rare up to elite. The tier of the part restricts the range of possible randomized values, and the way each part type is randomized is a bit different. For drill bits, a tier-based number of points is divvied up randomly between the drill bit's size and strength against different material types, allowing for a large variety of pretty balanced drill bits. Outputs have an efficiency percentage, which is randomized within a tier-based range. This means that you can get objectively better parts within the same tier, but a higher tiered part will always be better than a lower tiered one. And lastly, inputs have influence over more circuit board squares the higher the tier, but the direction is randomized. When you upgrade a part at the mechanic, you're bumping it up to the next tier. The base type will remain the same, but upgrading will re-randomize the stats. In the case of the drill bits, the upgraded part will maintain the previously allocated points, but new points will be added in and divided up between the size and strength. In any case, you can see what the upgraded part will be before you purchase it, so you can decide if the upgrade is what you want. At the beginning of a run, you now get to choose between some random common parts to get you going, giving you a bit of choice in the direction your build takes. With the newly randomized parts, there's a lot of different ways this can go. Lastly, and this has nothing to do with replayability, but everything to do with getting started playing the game, I've made a bit of a framework for adding tutorials. It's a bit of a challenge coming up with concise yet informative tutorials, but I'm going to keep chipping away at them over time. I've just got a sort of proof of concept tutorial implemented in the main Asteroid screen at the moment, but I'll be improving and adding to them as I go. I've gotten a lot of really great feedback from you, both here on YouTube and on my Discord, but the scope of that feedback is obviously going to be limited since you're only able to give feedback based on what I've shown in my videos. So to help with that, I'm opening up playtesting to everyone. To get access to the playtest, you can head over to the Steam page and click this button. Feel free to wishlist the game while you're there. And if you join the playtest, be sure to join the Discord server as well so you can easily share your feedback and discuss it with other playtesters. Alright, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.